The Navigating PVS podcast is for general knowledge and does not constitute medical advice. Please consult with a qualified healthcare professional for any health concerns. I'm Jen, this is Mischa, and this is our first time speaking properly. As Mischa said, we are social media friends because our daughters share the same disease, pulmonary vein stenosis. Before we hit record, we started talking about how Mischa's daughter being on Instagram had led to a mom reaching out to her like just the last few days.
Yeah. Just the last couple of days, yeah.
So Amaya was in the hospital.
Yeah,
Um,
with pneumonia, bless her.
it is so hard right now. Like it's cold where you are. It's extremely cold where I am.
Yeah, it's been a tough winter.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of influenza and things out there.
RSV,
And Amaya had RSV also.
yeah. Yeah, she's had it all.
Do they think this pneumonia was related to some of her previous illnesses or?
They don't think so. Obviously, we'll touch base on it, but one of the drugs that she's on for PVS is sirolimus, and the antibiotic that they originally prescribed her, they shouldn't have because it can make the sirolimus toxic.
Oh,
Yeah, it makes the levels increase. So, the therapeutic levels that we have to get checked for them, it can make them rise or makes the sirolimus knock out the antibiotic. So, nearly 2 weeks ago, went in for an ear infection, had those antibiotics, obviously didn't do anything. Now, hence the pneumonia.
oh.
So, yeah, it shouldn't have gone with the warfarin either. It's kind of got us into a difficult situation, but luckily, as always, as a trooper, she powered through and got discharged within 2 days.
This is a great example of where if one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing with PVS, and I'm driving myself batty right now with the feeding part of it.
Yeah.
Like, how do you navigate? So we just had a lower than they want BUN, right? So checking her, kidney function. Another one of the labs that we have to hold our kids down for.
Yeah.
We just held summer down on Thursday. That takes like literally three
Three or
grown
four people.
adults.
Yeah.
Yep, to hold them down because they've experienced so much trauma, right? A lot of times it's like, no, I do not want to be here
No,
today.
and if they could walk, they'll be out.
Okay, so let's take a step back and tell your story. When was Amaya born? And how did you know there was any sort of congenital heart defect prior to birth?
So Amaya was born in 2021. She was born at 23 weeks gestation, just spontaneous labor. Didn't know at all until it was like towards where I needed to push, basically.
Yeah.
A healthy pregnancy. And then she was born, and the hospital that I was in, it might be slightly different over in the US, but we grade ours by levels. So she was born in a level 2 hospital, whereas ideally it should have been like a level 3 or level 4, because their neonatal unit only take premature babies from 27 weeks.
Okay.
So we had to wait for a bed. One did actually come up in Kent. She was there for about 2 weeks, but then she had to be sent over to London at King's College because she had a spontaneous perforation of the bowel, which is quite common in preemies. Obviously on a ventilator for quite a long time, trying to go into CPAP, BiPAP, Optiflow, the whole 9 yards. A lot of infections, sepsis, steroids for the lungs, pretty much everything that you could be thrown at in the neonatal unit. But then after about 6 months, she started to go downhill after she had her immunizations, her second lot of them. And I thought maybe she was having an allergic reaction to them because she
Yeah.
started getting fluid in the lungs, and oxygen requirement was starting to go up. She has to go back on to, I think it was like 10 liters at the time. They couldn't quite work out what was happening. So they did x-rays and then they did an echo.
Yeah.
Then they saw that she had pulmonary hypertension at first.
Yep.
which is
Yep.
high blood pressure within the lungs. So there was the talk of, do they do nitric, or
Yep.
do they ventilate her, or like what do they do? So they were treating her like she had pulmonary hypertension, which she did, but then they got a specialist from London, from one of the cardiac hospitals, did a further investigation, and that's when they found the stenosis of the pulmonary veins. And then there was to and fro in what they would do, whether they would keep her at King's and just let it do its course, and from what doctors say, do its course,
Yep.
do nothing,
Yep.
and let it ride its wave, or do we send her to the other London hospital and try and see what they can do? The two hospitals were fighting, basically.
Right.
King's wanted to send her because they knew there was an option. The other London hospital were like, no, there's nothing else we can do. Just let it ride its course, basically. In the end, the other hospital did take her, but they've got a 3D CT
Yep.
machine, and they were like, she hasn't got any top two veins. They've like just shriveled. So they call it pulmonary sclerosis.
Okay.
And she's got her bottom two pulmonary veins, but she's got the disease in it. So I was fighting with them because I couldn't understand how a baby of 6 months has survived this long with just two veins, because when you've only got two veins, the likelihood of them surviving at all is very, very slim. So I wanted a second opinion. Got that second opinion from Great Ormond Street. And if I remember correctly, from the top two veins that are not connected and just shriveled, she actually created new veins from those that fed into the bottom. And they've basically branched out into those lower veins. It's mad what she's done, but they did say like they have seen it, but it's rare.
Yep.
Your body creates new pathways to enable blood and oxygen to flow through. That's what happened. But prior to them finding that out from Great Ormond Street, it was the horrible conversation that you've had with all the consultants or the specialists to say, look, there's literally nothing else that we can do. You've got the weekend to decide where she ends her life, either in hospice care, at home, or in the hospital. And they don't sugarcoat it at
No.
all. But I wasn't taking no for an answer because I couldn't physically understand how she was still here with just two veins.
Yep.
So I'm doing all my research,
Yep.
looking up at
Yeah.
Boston, because Boston, it seems to be that in the States is more specialized with PVS and have more knowledge and research into the disease. So I'm messaging people on the Facebook group, emailing some of the secretaries at Boston so I can get a second opinion over there. And if I had to fly her out to Boston, I would. Like, you,
Yep.
you try all sorts.
Yep.
Then when the Great Ormond Street came back, her cardiologist said to me, we've got an option. I said, that's great. That's all I need.
Yep.
That's all I need. So we went with the option, which was to do balloon dilatation.
Yep.
But they were quite reluctant to do cutting balloons for the first try because they didn't know how she would react to even going under anaesthetic, being so poorly. She
How
doesn't.
old is she at this point?
She was 6 months old. I think we spent that weekend prior deciding whether or not we go ahead with taking the vent off. And then we got the option of doing the balloon dilatation. We went with it that Monday or Tuesday. I think they took her into the cath lab, and it was like a whole 360. It was like she was awake, she had her eyes open, ventilation settings came down. It was just amazing how just opening up two little veins makes a massive difference.
Yep.
Um,
Was she still on nitric at this point?
they never put her on it.
Oh, they never did. Okay.
No, because there was also talks, I can't pronounce it properly. It's solid. I can't remember how you pronounce it.
Sildenafil?
I think so. It's oh, I think,
Vasodilator drug that they use
yeah.
for pulmonary
So they
hypertension.
put her on that, but her lungs over compensated for it, so they took her off it. So they were like, okay, that's a no-no, because the hospital was also talking with Boston of how to treat her.
Like all PVS kids, our stories have a lot of parallels, but
Similarity.
we didn't see the pulmonary hypertension until after we started treatment.
Okay.
And for Summer, the pulmonary hypertension has been a big part of her story. If you have PVS and pulmonary hypertension and they're correlated together, if you say there's 10 levels of PVS, right? And you're at a 5 on PVS, then you're at roughly a 5 on the pulmonary hypertension. Well, for Summer, she was a 10 on PVS and like a 15 on pulmonary hypertension. So
Yeah,
for a
because they do
long
say if they get the PVS under control, the hypertension comes down, but it takes a while for it to settle back down.
for us, the jury is still out, but it is leaning towards that we're getting there. We're making some progress. We're still on 2 pulmonary hypertension drugs, 24/7 oxygen. She'll be 3 in a few months. But it is starting to subside as we get control of the PVS. That's why I'm scrambling into this conversation because we had labs this week and her BUN, the marker of kidney health, right? Like with the diuretics and whatnot, mine was a little bit lower, right? It's counterintuitive for these PVS kids and I think cardiac kids in general, they want to keep them a little on the dehydrated side. It's just less volume for their hearts to pump. So our BUN target was a little bit under where we want to be. And then I don't know if they're using any of these BNP or pro BNP markers in the UK, but it's a hormone that I think your heart releases. We are not medical professionals, so please
No.
put that disclosure out there. Mischa and I are not medical professionals, just heart moms who have to learn a lot of stuff. But they use this BNP marker when you have pulmonary hypertension, is high blood pressure in the lungs. It puts stress on your right ventricle of your heart.
As they say, oh, the right side is dilated or enlarged, you go into panic mode. You're like, right, okay, what are we going to do to correct this? Because you're
Yep.
struggling a little bit of like, okay, where do we stand?
Yeah, I mean, Summer was on milrinone, which is a drug that's used to help the heart pump. I'm
Okay.
sure there's like a lot more medical nuance to that, but she was on that at her sickest. Like, it's always interesting when I talk to PVS moms who had micropremies because it seems like the most intense part of your journey is, that beginning stage. And for us, she got diagnosed with very basic septal defects. And we came home thinking, okay, we just have to put some weight on her and then they'll go in and close these holes and she's going to have a very normal childhood. And at 11 weeks old, they found the PVS. We're 1,400 miles from Boston and our home facility doesn't treat PVS. It's a very complex disease that requires a lot of specialized knowledge. And so there's really kind of two big centers in the US. It's Boston and Texas.
Oh, okay. I
Children.
didn't know about Texas.
Yeah, there's a lot of other facilities popping up. We are treated now in Chicago, which is 400 miles from home, I should start converting this to kilometers for conversations outside of the US. But
Just say how long it takes by duration, then we'll
uh, with
understand.
a toddler, the drive's about 7 hours.
Oh, wow.
If my husband and I were to jump in the car and do it ourselves, we could do it about 5.5.
Oh God, I'm only at like an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours up to London.
Yeah,
Like, go
yeah.
for that.
No,
How long are
it's
you
a
doing?
it's a 7 hour drive, and we generally flew to Boston, but because Summer's pulmonary hypertension got so bad, flying became increasingly
Dangerous.
risky.
Yeah.
But I want to let you finish the Amaya story. So she has this first cath,
Yeah.
and instantly she seems treated and better and
Yeah. Yeah.
treated. How
Yeah.
long did that last?
4 weeks. So they transferred us back to the neonatal unit, which is only, bear in mind that both these hospitals have a PICU and a NICU. but they wanted her to go back to King's because that's where they know her background, etc., etc. And it was a nice couple of weeks, but then it is always in the back of your head, and you're constantly looking at the oxygen saturations and seeing if they're going tachycardic, and now you know what the signs to look out for, like the rapid breathing, and kind of make yourself go a little bit crazy just watching them when the next turn's going to be. So
nothing can explain that level of anxiety, truly. When she was tacky, like tell me about Summer had like clavicle retractions and her ribs would be retracting. Like what were Amaya's symptoms that you were looking for?
she just got fast heart rate and fast breathing and being very lethargic. That was her telltale signs. And then obviously the echoes would correlate with what we're seeing on the screen and on paper, basically.
Has Amaya ever had open heart surgery, right? So like some kids with PVS, Summer did have open heart surgery, but a lot of kids never need open heart surgery. They have PVS independent of any other cardiac defects.
Yeah, the only thing that she had, it wasn't open heart surgery, it was a keyhole, which is quite common in preemies as well as just regular babies and toddlers, because when they're born, the hole doesn't close. It's the PDA. It's like a little duct
Yep.
that sits outside the heart. That she had done, I think, when she was about 4 months old, I would say. So that went perfectly fine. But also, along when we found out she had PVS, we also found out she had an ASD.
Yep.
But
Which is actually a weird blessing in the PVS world.
yes, they've kept it open. And when it has closed, they've reopened it.
Yep.
It's mad, even though they want to close the hole, they want to keep it open.
Yep.
But no other heart defects of PVS. It either comes under cardiac or it comes under the lungs, like the pulmonary side of things. Because I think you guys, rather seeing a cardiologist, you see a I can't pronounce it.
Pulmonologist.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Summers needed a lot of additional respiratory support. It seems like her lungs are getting a lot healthier and remodeling, but she spent 2 years on a BiPAP machine overnight.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so we just came off of that about a month ago, finally, her fourth sleep study
Yeah.
finally showed that she was well enough supported with nasal cannula to come off the BiPAP overnight,
That's
which is,
amazing.
I mean, she really wants to sleep on her stomach, which is impossible when you've got this mask over your.
I couldn't even imagine putting that on Amaya now because she's so traumatized by everything. Having a BiPAP machine, I couldn't imagine with Summer because obviously she's a bit more um mobile than Amaya, and whereas Amaya's a bit more neurodiverse. So couldn't imagine any child having that at all, especially at like 2, 3 years old.
But yeah, I think we started just shy of a year, so like 10 months to just shy of 3 years. She tolerated it pretty well. I mean, we were very lucky in that aspect. When we first put her on BiPAP, we were living in an Airbnb in Boston,
Yeah.
and it was this old building that didn't have very many outlets for electricity. So, like, just having the respiratory supply company come in and try to, okay, well, this has to be plugged in directly to the wall. This cannot go to a power strip. So you're limited on how you can get this BiPAP machine set up, and it caused all this stress. And then ultimately, she just couldn't make it outside. So it was like, I think I had her outside for a week with the BiPAP when she first got discharged with the BiPAP, which took forever to get the supplies to get even out of the hospital. I get her out, we figure out how to make these janky power outlets work, and then she she was back in needing diuretics, IV diuretics before the cath. Then I think I had her out maybe 10 more days, and then we never got out of the hospital. And ultimately, after 4 months of being inpatient in Boston, a lot of the things you talk about with like, let nature take its course. We were kind of at that point even in Boston where she was getting caths so frequently. She was so sick. She kept having repeat infections. at one point just complete colitis along the whole GI tract that like, okay, is it this, is it that? I mean, at the time she was on Gleevec, which is a targeted chemo. She was on Avastin, which is an immunotherapy
Oh,
infusion.
okay.
And then she was also on sirolimus.
Oh,
So
so they did sirolimus and Gleevec.
we were on Gleevec, sirolimus, and Avastin. GI tract gets completely
Oh, wow.
I mean, we were at Hail Mary stage. She was very, very unwell. And the BiPAP was brought in as like a, okay, let's try this. Because even at the best of the best, right? You have these kids with severe, severe illness that just really keep people up at night figuring out how they're going to survive. And we're so grateful, but ultimately it was too much. We were too far from home. The support network wasn't there. I
Yeah,
was not well. My mental health was in a really bad place at that time.
yeah,
And ultimately, we pushed to transfer her, even though it sounded so ridiculous. Like you're at the best facility for your child, but she wasn't thriving and we weren't thriving. And I truly believe that when we're doing well, our kids are doing well. And that's like normal
yeah,
motherhood.
yeah,
But for our kids, I think like us, you can take them to the best facility in the world, but if you can't cope and you can't thrive, then they're not going to. So ultimately, after 4 months of being inpatient in Boston, we air ambulanced her to Chicago.
yeah.
Um,
I remember you posting about it.
and I'm crying on this flight the whole way, thinking like, what am I doing? What if she doesn't do well here? And we took her away from Boston and the team that knows her, like you talk about getting sent back to King's, but that's the nurses who know her best. These people become your entirety, your
Oh,
family.
yeah.
I mean, they see you. I
Day in,
mean,
day out.
they,
And at
yep,
your worst.
at your absolute worst. Like, I have not showered in a week. Worst. Like, I can barely put my shoes on. Worst.
Yeah, 100%. But like going with you leaving that hospital, obviously that was a good decision for you and your family. With Amaya, when she went back to King's and she needed to go back to the other London hospital, I actually requested that she doesn't be transferred again because King's didn't, they've seen PVS, they've just never treated it.
Yeah.
And they're quite honest with that.
I
And I'd
know.
rather them be honest about that because I remember vividly one of the doctors said they've had 5 babies, including Amaya, have PVS, and none of them have come back. But Amaya's the only one that survived. So that she's like their little protege, little miracle because they've never had a baby come back from PVS. And that's saying something.
Yep.
So
Yep.
she stayed at the other London hospital because obviously that was the right hospital for her because they've got all the cardiac specialists, they've got the right equipment, the right teams, the relationship with Boston, etc. So she stayed back at the other London hospital, and that's where she thrived.
This is way deep into the story, but she has not had to have a cath in quite some time, correct?
Last one was last Feb, purely for the fact they needed to just because she's gotten bigger, they needed to extend the stents because she needed to go in to have a VP shunt put in because she's got hydrocephalus. So they wanted her heart to be the best possible shape before going under neurosurgery.
Yeah.
So, but prior to that, she hadn't had a cath for about 18 months. As soon as they put stents in, it was a whole different ball game, like not having to have frequent caths. Obviously, it's going to be different for each
Yeah.
child, but for Amaya, as soon as they put those stents in, oh, it was a game changer. Absolute game changer.
So she has the first cath, she goes back to King's, then she starts deteriorating, needs to go back. You're like, okay, we're not gonna do this again. We're staying here. How long? So it was 4 weeks was that first interval.
Yeah. Then the next one was 6 weeks. Well, 5. So the second time is when I said to the lead cardiologist, I said, can we just stay here? Because obviously it's not working with us being at King's, because transporting is quite, one, it's traumatizing, and two, it's not an easy thing to transport a ventilated child. It needs a whole team. And if she's in the correct hospital, we're not having to basically pick up our lives and move again. We can just stay put and she can just chill a little bit instead of just being shipped here,
Well,
there,
yeah,
and
because you don't know what that next interval is going to look like. And yeah, transport is a whole topic, right? Like, I mean,
those machines haunt me. Those
yeah,
incubators haunt me.
we
To
had
this
an air
day.
ambulance team once show up, and I'm so grateful that exists. But their ventilator broke while Summer was on the elevator. Thank goodness it broke on the elevator, and all they had to do was bring her back up a few floors and get her put onto a proper one, but
Oh my
a
God.
working ventilator. But can you imagine if we would have been on the road or in the air, or these machines are not infallible, and our children's lives
But
are.
you rely on them and you think they're invincible and you think they're just going to continue working, but they're man-made and they can break at any point. Like, you kind of forget that, don't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, oh, that's mad about the ventilator.
Trying to think if that was, it gets so fuzzy because there's so much, but
It gets all intertwined with one
you're
another.
like, okay, was that, at first it was like, okay, chapter one, we have open heart surgery in our first cath. Chapter two, we need a second cath urgently and we get diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension. Chapter three, like
Yeah, yeah,
now
yeah.
it's like, oh, it's just one crazy,
Jumble mess.
yeah. I was really good at journaling at first, but I haven't
That's
been.
why I went to Instagram, because
Yep,
I have to release something by writing.
yep,
And that's what I used to do. I used to write while she was in ICU, because that was my way of decompressing, basically, and trying to get everything out that was in my mind.
yep, yep, same.
Um, but yeah, but Instagram was my release, even though it sounds really bizarre using social media as your release. But
It helps you kind of put it down into like it helps you digest,
yeah,
right? You just had 10 specialists using language you don't understand. I mean, I had no clue how the heart worked. Like absolutely
it's
zero.
when they draw you a picture of the heart and they're like, oh, by the way, I'm not an artist. And you're like, yeah, you can afford me.
Oh, what's a ventricle again?
Yeah.
Okay, so she starts did she get stents right away?
No, so I think she had, if I remember correctly, again, it goes all jumbled. She had another cath procedure. I think that was, so she had one in February, then the April, and then I think she had one in May. Then she got power flu influenza and Pseudomonas, which is like a bacteria growth, sticky stuff in her lungs.
Yeah.
But they needed her to have good heart function, because she
Yep.
was meant to have a cath, but she was too poorly. They want them on their A game before going in. And they said to me, we're going to try and put stents in because she can't keep doing caths by balloon dilatation. One, it's no life for her. Two, it's no life for you. Um, and she needs good heart function to fight this off. Or see what the virus does. It can either take her or she fights it, or we take her into theatre and she dies anyway, or we do the stents and she survives. Three possible outcomes, basically. So we're like, right, let's try these stents because this is what we've been waiting for. Let's try. Hours and hours went on and on and on. 8 hours later, and they were like, she's fine, she's out of recovery. And then her cardiologist comes and sees us and he went, we've got them in. And some people cried because all my family came up, because this was like D-Day, like the
Yep.
stents is like a big day.
Yep.
Some people cry, some people cheered, we've got people on the phone. It was like, how the hell have you done this? I think maybe an hour or so before they were gonna say, let's call it, because they really struggled to get the right one in. And he said, you know what, I'm just gonna give it one more go, give it one more wiggle and see what happens. And he did, and that's when it went in. So if he hadn't have tried one more time, she
Yeah.
wouldn't have had the right-sided stent. So whoever, I'm not religious or anything, but I was like, whoever is in that room with her or pushing or whatever, I was like, I thank you because you turn to anything that you can believe in to help you get through that point. So she got the stents put in, but prior to the stents, I was talking to her cardiologist about the sirolimus. I was like, can we at least try this? And they were like, well, we don't really use it on kids with PVS. It's predominantly for tumors and transplants,
Yep.
etc. And I was like, well, if you look at the case studies over in the States, they're using sirolimus and Gleevec, and there's like another drug that they're also using, but these are the two main ones that they are using and having not necessarily success stories, but positive outcomes.
Yep.
I kept getting knocked back and knocked back and knocked back. And I was like, is it because you need Amaya to prove herself to you that she is here to stay? Because obviously the NHS is paying for it because we've got free healthcare. And sirolimus is very expensive over in the UK. I'm not sure about over in the States. And then just before her stents, her cardiologist came to me and he was like, how do you feel about trying the sirolimus? I was like, so you believe me now, she's here to stay. And he was like, well, it's a drug that's paid for by the NHS anyway. And we've been speaking with Boston and looking at other research and speaking to other professionals within cardiology and respiratory and stuff like that. And he said, let's give it a go. So I think she's like either the first one or the second child that they've ever used sirolimus in the UK for PBS. So she was definitely a guinea pig, and it seems to be paying off.
We started on Gleevec. I know some kids do really well on it. It didn't really seem to decrease her rate of stenosis whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah.
And the data's there. It supports using Gleevec. It supports using Avastin is the other drug that we were on Gleevec and Avastin, and then kind of the Hail Mary was let's throw sirolimus in there. We backed out of that. She was on TPN and lipids for nutrition for 5 weeks at one point,
Mm,
her sickest. We ended up having to advance all the way to a GJ tube.
yeah.
So we're trying to unwind from that right now, but yeah, the Zero for us has been huge, as has stents. For summer too, she did end up seeing a lot of cutting balloons because her disease has been so aggressive.
Impressive.
It's crazy when you think about how much medical advancement has taken place just in the time that our daughters have been diagnosed. One of the things that has seemed to make a huge difference for summer is the use of drug-eluting stents and drug-eluting balloons.
Yeah, we do have them over here, but I don't think they're because I think they try to coat it with like the sirolimus and stuff, but I
Yeah,
don't.
it's kind of in that same drug class.
Yeah, I know we have them over in the UK, but I don't think we have them in that particular drug. I could be incorrect because I did question this because I've seen it on research with Boston and other hospitals over in the States.
When it's your kid,
You try
you
anything, you're like,
won't
I
try
don't
anything
care.
within reason, right? Like I imagine with Amaya too, like there was points with Summer that you start to question, like, should you continue? Like, what kind of life is this for her, right? And I really struggled with that during that long admission. So it was 4 months in Boston, coming off of 8 really tumultuous months of back and forth and trying to have a life outside of the hospital. 4 months in the hospital, then we transferred to Chicago, where we're inpatient for 2 more months. And when we were on that flight from Boston to Chicago, a very real possibility was that they would stabilize her enough to go home for hospice.
Yeah, yeah.
All the advancements and things, they're critical for these kids. And we avoided stents for a long time. And I wish our stent story was as like it just
Yeah,
it's
because I have found with reading on like the Facebook group and stuff, like over in the States, they seem to hold off putting stents in for quite a long time. It's constant calves, calves, calves. Where so over here, it's like if they're big enough to have stents, put them in.
yeah.
Like it's a lot better for the kids to have the stents if they're bigger. Obviously, there's probably a bit more medical stuff behind them putting stents in so early on. But it just seems like over in America, they're just very cath happy, if that makes sense.
Within the heart community, I think there's this misconception. Caths are less invasive than open heart surgery, absolutely. But I think when most people think about a cath, they're thinking about a diagnostic cath.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe some minimal intervention. Summer goes into the cath lab. She's in there for 6 hours. They're balloon dilating. They're cutting tissue. Like these are not like run of the
No, it
mill.
could be
Like
in there from four to 6, 8 hours. Like it's like Amaya went last February when she had her stents made bigger. It was meant to be quite like a couple of hours. She was in there for 8 hours, 2 surgeries because she had a hemothorax. So it never goes plain sailing.
no, no. So her intervals now are a year to a year and a half, pretty much.
Yeah, I think because obviously the last one was purely for the fact that she needed to have neurosurgery, and they were just like, because she's grown, we can do a few tweaks. Um, so I guess we're kind of at that starting block again where we don't know how long till the next one. Hopefully not for a while, because they did say that from age 2 plus, that's when the PVS starts to calm down.
Yeah.
Whether it's the same information that you guys have had.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, some people are still in the thick of it at 2 years old, but we've been quite fortunate that since we've had the stents, touch wood, everything's been really, really good. So yeah, we don't know how long till the next one because all of our major surgeries have now done. So hopefully she has a long grace period of not needing to go and have anything cardiac done.
Yeah. Summer is still like this will be her longest interval at 16 weeks.
Oh wow.
I mean, we were every 4 to 5 weeks for a long time, right? In 2023, she had 11 caths.
Wow. See, I thought how many I had was a lot. But then when I read like your story and some of the other people over in the States, their stories, how many calves they've had, I'm just like, I'm like screaming at my screen, like, please just put stents in, it will help them. Only because I've only seen stents as a really positive outcome. Obviously, it's not the same for every child, but in my experience, I'm just like, please just put the stents in, it will change their life.
We've had a decent amount of in-stent stenosis, even being
Yeah.
on the serial, which obviously helps with that. So that has been Summer has 5 pulmonary veins. The uppers are tiny. And every time you stretch the cath out a little bit more, like you're like, oh, please still be there, please still be there. When she had her open heart surgery, they rerouted that right upper pulmonary vein. And then within the first 3 or 4 caths, it was kind of a surprise. Stents were kind of like you didn't want to have to go there. And so
Oh,
when
really? Okay.
that particular cath surgeon came out and said, I put a stent in, we were devastated. We were like, what do you mean you put a stent
So
in?
we see stents as a positive thing.
Right, right. So it was like that you telling that story, I was like, oh, that is so not how we reacted. Now, because she's been able to save that vein, and as she got bigger, Summers had so many caths. This is me being very pro stent now also. Um, It's very interesting. I thought there would be more of a difference between your journey and ours. And even though we've spoken a lot, I knew there was a lot of commonalities between getting the second opinion, getting pushed to one facility versus another. Like even within the US, different facilities have different philosophies on medication and stenting and those sorts of things. So it is interesting how similar that part of
Yeah.
it is. And even in, I think the US perspective is always that, you know, having national health care would be better and that you would receive the treatment that your child deserves. But it sounds like you're having to do as much advocating and your own research as we do in the US to really make sure that our kids are getting what they need.
Oh, 100%, regardless whether you pay with like insurance or cover with insurance versus the NHS, like, well, I still would like to think, regardless, however you're paying, you get the right treatment for your child and get the right specialists involved. It's such a great area with PVS because they don't know which teams need to be involved in what treatments are needed. But I just hope that wherever they are in the world, the PVS kids get the same treatment regardless wherever you are or however you're paying. Like it should never be any different.
I completely agree with that. When we were in Boston, I actually met an Italian physician who was there visiting to just learn the PVS infrastructure in Boston.
Mm,
And then I think both of us have been very active on Instagram. There's a mom I know whose son had PVS as well as a genetic condition, not Downs, but similar developmental condition. And just the struggle for her to receive treatment. There's a mother whose daughter had Downs and PVS, and how hard those moms had to fight for treatment for their kids because they just were deemed undeserving. I mean, not that we all haven't, felt that with PVS, but I think that adds another layer to it.
or
That
even in the UK, I know someone that's got a child with Downs and PVS, and the amount of no's that she got because of child having Down syndrome was, I couldn't fathom. But luckily, it took her a year to get a yes from the hospital that Amaya's at, because she actually reached out to me. And I was like, try Amaya's hospital. These are the names. This is the contact email, because they don't really give out telephone numbers. Here's the email. What have you got to lose at this point? Because you're at rock bottom. I know it sounds really horrible, but you are at rock bottom. You've had so many no's. So again, social media can be a wonderful thing because you can find the right person in the right country to be like, here's the information.
yeah, when we were being treated in Boston, there was a little boy from Poland that they had to raise funds, and social media can be such a positive thing, right? There's a Facebook group for PVS families. I think that PVS group is a lifeline for all of us. And I think they do a really good job of monitoring who they allow into the group
Yeah.
because it's,
There's been a few on there that have made their way in.
yep, yep,
But they got soon kicked off very,
yep.
very quickly.
Yep. I think there was some shady t-shirt sales, maybe. When your kid gets diagnosed with PVS, the first thing you do is go to the internet, right?
Oh,
And
100%.
it is so doomsday. I mean, I remember ugly, loud crying in the hospital, just like so devastated, right? Like just it kills me to think every time a kid gets diagnosed with PVS, the road is like so lonely. That was one huge positive of Boston that I miss in Chicago. Like Chicago has a formal PVS program now, but it's smaller than Boston by quite a
Yeah.
large margin. And now that we're living a mostly outpatient life, we come in, we have our cath, and within a couple of days, we're home. And then our home facility doesn't really treat it. It's so rare. And so, yeah, in Boston, we had much more of an ability to meet other families. That said, there's the downside is many of those other families we know, their kids didn't make it. It creates a lot of survivor's guilt
When
that
I see it, when I do see it on social media, because obviously it got a few come come up on Insta or even on the Facebook group. And there was one a couple of months ago, and I literally just bawled my eyes out. And I'm like, obviously, it sounds really morbid, but I do call Amaya a ticking bomb, basically, because you just never know.
Yeah.
And I'm just like thinking, oh my God, that could be us out in 6 months' time, for example. When I do see it, when a PVS child get their wings, I just bawl like a baby. I just can't cope with it.
You make these connections, and you're one of a few moms that like we chat on a fairly frequent basis, just
Yeah.
checking in. How are you? How's Amaya? How's summer? And every time you check in, if you haven't seen anything on social for a while, I'll admit sometimes I reach out and my heart is heavy, like not knowing are they okay? And
Yeah, yeah.
when you see a new post show up from one of your close PVS mom friends, you're like, oh, please don't let them be sick. Like I saw you post, Amaya's in the hospital this week, and I was like, oh no. I'm so glad she was in and out, but you never know.
You just don't know how quickly they can turn. They can just turn and have to be ventilated. Like you just don't know.
Yep. It's so, again, having to advocate to have your child transported to a place that can actually care for them, that's the same here as it is there. Like Summer needed an air ambulance,
Mm.
and I didn't feel like our local hospital's case management was like gonna get us there. So I'm like literally on the phone. I'm like, okay, can we try this other department? Who else can we call? Like literally kept her on the phone, use hostage techniques of like personifying my daughter, telling her our story and why she really needed this ambulance to Boston. But
Yeah,
the weight of how much you have to advocate for your PVS kid, it's heavy.
massively. Yeah. Well, with anything with a medical complex child, you have to be very assertive, very strong-minded, sometimes a little bit on the aggressive side to get your point
But
across. I say slight, I mean for me it's a bit more than slight because I'm a fiery person. But you have to do it though.
yeah,
You don't have a choice because if you're not going to do it, no one else is going to do it.
no. And I feel like so often times where I have maybe stepped back a little, sometimes you have to relinquish some control, right? Because otherwise you will drive yourself absolutely crazy. And
Yeah.
I've been there, done that. But trusting your gut is such an important aspect of this. It's like the times where I told myself to sit back and be more passive, but my gut was telling me otherwise, like something bad happened. If my gut is calm, then I can just kind of, okay, like,
Because you get like an intuition of something's not right here or something's going to happen. It's like when Maya recently went to her clinic appointment and on the echo, I was like, that doesn't look right on her echo. Because you've seen their heart so many times, you know what's normal, what's not normal. And the radiographer or sonographer was like, oh yeah, that's just, a bit of the heart, blah, blah. I was like, nah, something's not right here. So when we went in back into her cardiologist's room, and he said, so the echo, I was like, I knew it. But even before her echo, me and Amaya's dad, we were walking to the hospital, and I said, it's got nothing to do with her PVS, but something's going to show up on that echo, and I don't know what it is. Turns out it was just a flabby bit of heart muscle.
yeah, it's interesting, like that mother's intuition and that sense of your gut is telling you something's off, right? Like
Yeah,
anytime Summer had a pulmonary hypertensive crisis, I feel like my whole body started to feel it. Something's coming, right? And
yeah, yeah.
some of it's all those visual cues that they give you, but some of it is unexplainable.
You can feel it in your body that something's not going to go how it's intended to.
I get a good sense that some physicians may not want to see either of us coming down the hallway.
Especially Amaya's respiratory doctor probably doesn't like me at all, but it's fine. I don't care.
I don't care. I'm
No,
not trying to win a popularity contest. I'm trying to say,
no, exactly. I'm there to ask questions and challenge it.
all right, so Misha and I spoke for 2 hours. I've called this really beautiful conversation that took us down many paths. I expect to speak with Mischa again. For now, I have a few other interviews coming up, and I look forward to releasing those really soon. In the meantime, thanks for listening.